Hello everyone! So today I am doing a VR to MIxtress Ray about favorite and least favorite minors. And I think this was a super good idea when she suggested it on her channel. And I'll leave a link below down to her channel. I think she does some really amazing stuff. I love watching her unfair comparison series especially. It's entertaining but informative. So yeah, those are fun. Check them out. But yeah, when she suggested it, I thought it was a great idea. And then upon getting down to doing it, it was actually a lot of work. And in this basket here, I only have the suit of swords. So I'm thinking I'm gonna have to do this in series. I chose to do swords first because swords are my element of air, and they're also my favorite suit. I love decks that do the swords of suits really well. So yeah, I will be comparing them to the RWS, wow, I don't know why I keep doing that, RWS deck here. This one's by Olo Scarabio, um, just because that's the system I learned on. Lately, I have been doing studies into numerology and using more Marseille style decks, and in my readings, those do make it into some of my meanings that I get for the cards, and I may mention them today or not, but visually speaking, we will be comparing them to this deck here. I also have my book of notes that I made that I'll be referring to, so I'm thinking we'll start by me reading some of the key words or thoughts I have for each card. Then we'll look at my least favorites and my most favorites, because that's kind of how I tackled this project. First, I went through my decks and visually picked out the cards that I liked. Then I looked through this deck and wrote down some keywords or phrases that came to my mind. And then based on those, I selected the final pick that's in these baskets. So let me flip these over. I hope they're in order. And I'll put them down here. We can set up this space and get started. I apologize, these aren't in order. Let me order these and then I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Gosh, I'm such a doof. I thought they were in order, but I forgot that I used them this morning. Maybe this is why I never do videos. Okay, there we go, that's in order. So, ooh, bumping cameras. Okay, so here we have the Ace of Swords from the Smith White. And my keywords for this were new ideas, mental clarity, beginning of a study, favoring your head over your heart. The darker side would be miscommunication or lack of clarity, a mental blockage, unforgiving or harsh judgment of others or yourself. So what I would like to see in the Ace is clouds. I like to see some darkness and some light. So here you have kind of like cloudy storm clouds, but it's light and clear in the background. I don't like to see any people in my aces. Here we have palm leaves and some, I don't know, berry leaves, laurel, I think someone described them as, but I'm not great with plants. It'd be nice if there were some plants, is what I'm saying. I like to see a sky, some element of wind or air, which you have in the cloud here and the sky. The crown for me isn't necessary because I already associate swords and the air with the mind. And I like to also associate the suit of swords with winter. I don't know why, but if there's like a winter scene, that's a bonus. Oh, and no violence. I don't want to see violence in my aces, which in the Ace of Swords, sometimes you see violence, and that's just not my favorite. So for the aces, actually, there was a tie for my least favorite card. One is from the Everyday Enchantment Tarot, and the other is from the Circle of Life Tarot. So let's look at the Everyday Enchantment one first. Yeah, it has the people. I don't like people in my aces. I understand that, there's intellect and strategy going into the surgery for this poor pup, but it's just too specific a scene for me. I like my aces to be like the untapped source, unlimited potential. It could break away in, numerous different directions, whereas this is a very specific situation. And although it gets some of the meanings of, the intellect and strategy, you have the people, and it doesn't seem like untapped potential. It's just one very limited view of the Ace of Swords. So I don't like that one. And the other one that came in a tie for first place is from the Circle of Life Tarot. And that is this one here. Again, people in my aces. I don't know why. I don't know why she's pregnant. There's this weird bug creature here. This just doesn't say ace to me. Maybe Empress, some other card in the suit or in the deck. It's very earthy as well, which I don't have a problem with, but I don't get the sense of sky. I don't get the airiness. Again, this pregnant woman just confuses me. So, one of my least favorites. Some others that I don't like but are passable is this one here from the Mystical Manga Tarot. Almost perfect. Like, if they just didn't put that face in there, it would have been a nice, powerful moment, but no. This one from Golden Tarot by Cat Black. Again, I don't hate it. It has the sky. It has the plant. The butterfly for transformation. But with this figure here, it makes it look like it could be a page or a queen of swords. So, same goes for this one from the Touchstone Tarot. With the sword and the figure holding the sword, could be a queen. She gives me very queeny vibes, actually. Or a page, but not an ace. And finally, from the Everyday Witch Tarot, same deal. Person, sword, childlike person, page of swords. That's what I get. So for my favorite Ace of Swords, I chose the card from the Prisma Visions. And this is kind of what I like to see. It's like this shining, shimmering sword. You get the sky. There's wind here in the background, so you get the air. I like that the sword's tip is still underneath the snow. You get the wintry scene that I said I prefer. So I like that the tip is under the snow. It's kind of that like untapped potential that's there, and the sword is glowing. It's ready. The potential, the energy is there. So that would be my favorite Ace of Swords. And a really close second was the Ace of Swords from the Sassorabito Tarot. And I'm sorry if I mispronounce any of these. Notoriously bad at pronouncing names. Yes, so I like this one because it has that sense of darkness and light. I like that the sword seems to be cutting through the darkness. So you get that energy, that feeling of energy, that feeling of clarity, and all the untapped potential that you can access. So, recap. Least favorite from Everyday Enchantment, and favorite from Prisma Visions. So let's move on. Next up, we have the Two of Swords. And in the Two of Swords, my keywords are decisions, weighing of options, an impasse, or like a balance of fairness, I suppose. Maybe missing information or not seeing everything. So what I like to see in my Two of Swords is water, because water is very symbolic. I like to see like a night scene, and the coloring in this deck is a bit lighter or muddier, but you see the moon, so you can see that it's at night. I like to see a moon, crescent moon. I like to see a confident, strong stance that's balanced. So those are kind of what I like to see. Oh, and crossed swords. I also like to see an actual crossing of swords, or arms in this case. But you know, the visual of like that impasse kind of no. So for my least favorite, again, is from the Circle of Life Tarot. And I have another video on this tarot. Like, I love the storytelling in this deck. But if we're just talking my personal associations and meanings with the suits, then yeah. Here, I just intuitively, it's a beautiful card. If you're telling a story, it's a beautiful card. But it just doesn't hit any of those points for me. You know, these swords are not crossed. There's no water. Um, it's hard to see the figure kind of behind the elephant, so I'm not even like I can't even really see her stance properly. There's no moon. It's not at night. It is in the winter though, so there's that. But my least favorite. And I had two other ones that I guess I didn't like. They're not my least favorite, but we have this one from the Slow Tarot. It's just with the conflict here, the actual physical sparring is not what I associate the Two of Swords to be. And this one here from the Everyday Enchantment Tarot, again, just doesn't get that meaning of the Two of Swords across for me. Like, you do have this cross here, but you know, she's not blindfolded. It's not like she's trying to make a decision. It looks to me like she's just ignoring what's in front of her, which I suppose can be of one very specific meaning of the Two of Swords. But again, because it's this situation, it doesn't portray, it doesn't give me, this image doesn't let me kind of access all the other meanings that can be associated with the Two of Swords. Like trying to weigh a decision rather than just ignoring and refusing to make a decision. So, yeah, there's that. Again, I don't hate it. And I love this deck because it kind of helped me see tarot and like the archetypes of tarot in everyday life. Like, these really are situations you face or you see others facing. The images that are depicted in the Everyday Enchantment. So it's really good for that. But for this series of like comparing your favorite and least favorite in terms of, I guess, how many meanings you can derive from it based on the traditional Rider-Waite, then this one is just too specific. So, yeah. For my favorites, I have one, and that is from the Sassorabito Tarot. This is just everything I need it to be. Perhaps there's no visual water, but there's the blue, which can imply water. You know, you have the darkness, you have some light. The moon is still here. And I love her stance. I like that we're a bit closer. Her eyes are covered, but with her hair, the shape we get here, it just looks very powerful, very determined. It's not that you have a loss of power. It's you're weighing how to use what you have, or weighing what's more important, or what needs your attention. I really, really love this card. So to recap, my least favorite from the Circle of Life Tarot, and my most favorite from the Sassorabito Tarot. Next up, we have the Three of Swords. And this image, I guess, works. The traditional image works. And in this deck, like the traditional RWS decks, I don't mind it. As in, I don't dislike it. But you know, in all these new decks and with all these great interpretations of all the other cards, I always get disappointed when the Three of Swords is just this. Because it seems to me like effort was put into seeing everything else differently, except the Three of Swords. which makes me sad. But that's just my own personal thing. So my note for the Three of Swords. When I look at this image, I think of sorrow. Where are we? Sorry. I think of sorrow, grief, negative mindset, disappointment, detoxifying, being stuck or entangled. And what I like to see is I like to see a storm or rain. I dislike, like it almost puts me off completely if it's like a romantic scene that's depicted. The heart is okay, but I can also do without the heart. But if it's, like a couple fighting or something like that, I don't like that meaning for the Three of Hearts. I think it's a lot broader. It doesn't need to be tied to just romance. So, anyway, what I like to see is storm or rain, and that's pretty much, and grief, like the idea of grief, and that's pretty much it for me. I don't want to see death because to me, the Three of Swords is not final. If you depict something that's dead, there's no coming back from that. And we're just kind of in the beginning of the suit. The number 3, there's still so much more to go. So I don't like to see an image like this. And this is from the Prisma Visions tarot. However, because this tarot, all the minors kind of connect and they make a story. So when I see this image in the panoramic of the rest of the story of the Sword of Suits, I can kind of forgive this specific card. So for my least favorite, I chose from the Sasarabito Tarot because it's a person stabbed through the heart. They're not going to live through this. It's very dark and there's no hope. Yeah, it's very final. And I don't want my 3 to be final. So I dislike that. This is my least favorite. Another card I dislike is just this one, specifically, because it looks so flat, and it just doesn't fit with the rest of this deck. This is the Star Spinner. That's very like liney and pretty, and then there's just this. Yeah, just doesn't suit it. My favorite depiction comes from the Animal Totem Tarot. And I love this because this is grief. This is sorrow. Elephants are known to have a great memory, and they've been known to like mourn the death of their own as well. So seeing this elephant mourn over these skeletons, like it gets the meaning of this card across beautifully. You have your storm clouds here, but it's clearing, there's light in the distance. So yeah, a beautiful image. I also enjoy this one from the White Sage Tarot, and I know it's a bit pippy, or it is a pip depiction, but this blue ribbon represents the chakra. Which chakra was it? Let me think. The 5th chakra, the throat chakra. So it's kind of binding these swords together, and I like that meaning of like the Three of Swords being a communication problem. Maybe feeling like you can't express yourself, or not expressing yourself in a way that was understood the way you meant for it to be understood, and that leading to some situation that's undesirable. So I like that one. I also like this one from the Halloween Tarot, just because it is very similar to the original. You have your storm, you have your rain, but the swords are represented by bats in this adorable deck, and I like that. It's like they're temporarily weighing your heart down, but eventually they'll fly away. So I like that idea of something on your heart, weighing it down, making it feel unpleasant, but it's not permanent. And finally, I also really enjoy the Three of Hearts from the Everyday Witch Tarot. Again, because it goes so well with the Four of Swords in the story aspect. And here you have the journal, the spilled ink, like the bed. You get the feeling, you still have the storm going on. And it's not a literal heart that's being stabbed, it's a box of chocolates that you can assume was maybe a gift. Or maybe not. Maybe just some anger needed to be taken out. So I really, really like this Three of Swords as well. To recap, my least favorite from the Sasarabito Tarot, because it's too final, it's too violent. And then my favorite from the Animal Totem Tarot, because it really goes into that emotional grief and being stuck here in this moment, but then also having hope. Next up, we have the Four of Swords. So for the Four of Swords, my keywords were rest, meditation, a sacred space, recovery, or taking time to consider something. In my Four of Swords, I like to see the promise of a continuation. So again, nothing too final like death. I like to see, like here we have, a window, a beautiful stained glass window, and you kind of have that promise of like, there will be another day, you can move on from this. I like a peaceful image, like a still image. And although I don't love this imagery per se, it does hit all those spots, like the stillness, the sacred space, the peacefulness. And I don't like to see death, and I don't like to see coffins, because again, too final. We're only in the fours. We can make it through this. So for my least favorite, I have this image from the Mystical Manga Tarot. Only because, coffin, final, death. So, yeah, least favorite. And my favorite Four of Swords would have to be, I think, from the Dreaming Way Tarot. I love it because it looks still, but there's movement. Like life is all around you, but you've taken a moment to be still. To me, because it's out in nature, it looks like a very sacred experience. I like that she's turned away. We can't see the face of the figure. And just taking a moment to rest. Doesn't look too beat up, but doesn't look like she's ready to move on. Needs to take a moment to rest, to collect some thoughts. Yeah, it's just a beautiful image. I really like this one. Another one that I enjoy is from the Everyday Witch. And let me just pull out the three. Where did I put that? Here it is. So, right? Beautiful storytelling here. I love it. Here you have, the stab box of chocolates, the same bed. You see the same bed. It looks like the same room. So here it's raining, and she's been sleeping, writing in her journal, spilled ink. But then in the next picture, the rain has stopped. It's a clear night. The moon, the stars are out. She's resting. And I like that in this one you can see the light and the dark, or the shadow of the Four of Swords. You see all these cobwebs, like things have gone. Can you see? Sorry, there's a bit of glare. Yeah, you have all these cobwebs and spider webs around. Seems like maybe certain things have gone unattended to. You're maybe not seeing everything and not attending to everything that needs to be attended to, but still taking time to rest. And it's not so serious, when you're ready you can get up and clean. So yeah, I really like this Four of Swords, and I just like the whole storytelling aspect of the sword suit in this deck. Here I like the Everyday Enchantment image because you can see they've done some work to put up this tent. The day is coming to an end, it's time to rest. But you also have the badgers, the animals here. I think they're badgers. But anyway, some wildlife also making a nest and getting ready to rest. It looks like perhaps winter is coming. So I like this. Again, it's out in nature. It's sacred, it's peaceful, it's restful. It's a nice image. And finally, I also liked this Marielle Four of Swords. For me, it takes me into that place of rest. I can look into this image and feel peaceful, I suppose. And then it also still has the shadow aspect. So I like that image as well. So that was a lot of cards. Let's recap. Least favorite? Final, death. Most favorite? Kind of this beautiful image of being out in the woods, taking a break. And that's the Four of Swords. Moving on to the 5. So my keywords For the Five of Swords is competition, defeat or victory, ethics, or conscience versus, getting what you want or winning at all costs. Uh, Accepting failure and learning from your failure or learning from the experience and moving forward. Um, in my Five of Swords, I like to see a duality, a duality of victory and loss. So like here, you have the victory and the loss, and you see both of those. A little blurry in this image, but it's there. I like to see like a turbulent environment, maybe stormy clouds or maybe rocky waters. Just a bit of an environment that's not still, not peaceful. And I also like to see kind of the idea of two sides. There's two sides to a coin, so I like there to be a sense of something that's lost for the victor. And again, just because this image is a bit hard to see, a bit blurry, I don't really get that from this specific image, but I guess you could read into it if you wanted to. So my least favorite Five of Swords is from the what is this called? The Lightseers Tarot. Sorry. And I don't dislike this image. I was struggling to find a card I didn't like for the Five of Swords. So I just chose this one because you have the victor here. He looks really happy. You don't get a sense that he's lost anything. And just, the environment, the background looks peaceful. Like, I do love that you get to see the face of the person who's lost as opposed to the victor. That's cool. But, I don't know. I chose this as my least favorite because I was struggling to find one that I didn't like. For my most favorite, it doesn't actually depict any of the things I said, so oops. But I love this from the Sessorbedo Tarot for the Five of Swords. These swords are kind of like stuck to your hand, and it's kind of like, what wouldn't you do to win, right? Like you would literally tear through everything. And I love the colors. It's just very, like, it gives me such an emotion. Like, I feel so much for this image that is lost in this image. So I chose this as my favorite. Another one that I really like that does kind of hit upon all the other things I mentioned is this one from the Mystical Manga Tarot. Because here you have the victor and the losers. You kind of have like a windy scene, a windy sunset. And he looks all smug and happy, I suppose. But then, these two have lost. I still get the sense of that, like, they have companionship, they have a friendship. Like, they're not alone, but he's alone. And again, like, I guess you can kind of get that from this, but not as clearly as you can see it here. And I really like that. To recap, my least favorite, not that I dislike anything specifically about it, and my most favorite. That doesn't actually include any of the things I mentioned that I like to see, but just that it conveys the idea really well, and it really hits your emotions and intuition quickly and accurately, I think. So, that's the Five of Swords. Next up is the Six of Swords. So my keywords for the Six of Swords was transition, change, moving on, inner strength, and determination. So what I like to see is like rocky waters or darkness, as well as still waters or light. Here we have like the rocky waters, and moving forward it's nice and still. So that's kind of like the dark to light aspect. I don't like to see lone figures in this card. I like to see that there's companionship or that you can turn to someone for help. I like to see movement or some form of change happening. And movement is just a very simple visual way to depict change, going from this place to that place. I don't like to see kind of like a stillness or lone figures. So for this card, I chose the image from the Mystic Manga Tarot. And again, I kind of struggled. I have a lot of Six of Swords that I really like, some that I like, and I like this one. It's fine. I don't dislike it, but I chose it as my least favorite because it's the only image I have that has one figure, and everything looks kind of light. Nothing looks particularly choppy or particularly still. So maybe it's too happy a scene, or too soft a scene. And yeah, she's alone. So, least favorite. My most favorite, again, doesn't have any of the things I mentioned, but really hits it hard. Like, hits that feeling hard. Again, it's from the Cesario Tarot. That feeling of coming up for a breath of air. And I know she's also alone, but just this feeling that I get from this image, like gives me everything I need for the Six of Swords. You can still ask for help, but like, you have to come up for that breath of air before you can communicate that you need or want assistance. So that's my favorite. A more traditional one that I do enjoy is from the Japanese Myth Tarot. So this has the two figures, so you have more than one person. You have the choppy waters, you have the still waters, and you have that movement forward. So a more traditional image that I really enjoy. So my favorite and my where did my least favorite go? And my least favorite. Oof. All right, moving forward. We have the Seven of Swords. My keywords for the Seven of Swords was deception, using strategy, sneaking, lies, manipulation, maybe a lack of cooperation. So in this one, I do like to see a character acting alone. I like to see smugness, and if possible, if the card makes me think twice about jumping to conclusions about the person, it makes me happy. I really like Disney films and stuff like that, so I watch them a lot. And this card reminds me of in The Lion King 2, when Kovu gets the scar on his face and the song goes on, deception, disgrace. Talking about the evil look he has on his face, like he resembles the other villain from the first movie, Scar. And they're judging him based on the scar on his face, based on just his appearance. And like he's been judged his whole life because of just doing what he's been taught to do. And the association the others had with the other villain that they associated to him as well. So that's what I get from the Seven of Swords in a nutshell. For my least favorite is the Seven of Swords from the Dark Days Tarot, just because this image is beautiful. It just doesn't give me that sneaky, like I guess she could be sneaking around these swords to not get hurt, but like there's no smugness. It's definitely like an aspect of the Seven of Swords, but it's not what I want in my image of Seven of Swords. I also didn't love this one from the Circle of Life. It gives me more of a Seven of Wands feel. Yeah. And my favorite Seven of Swords is from the Weird Cat Tarot, because it kind of does all those things. You have this dog that like disguise themselves as a cat to go steal from them. He looks really happy with himself. He has his little stick, but it's not a figure you can really be angry with, because it's just a dog that wanted a stick, but like was judged or discriminated against for being a dog. So he had to kind of find a way to fit in to get a stick. But like in the end, he's still stealing it. So yeah, a cute image, but it really gets the message across for me. Yeah, I don't know, my favorite. I also really enjoy this image from the Cosmos Tarot and Oracle. I just like, all of these figures coming out of these different kind of portals, lines. It kind of gives me the idea that, we all put on a face, and people put on a face, and like people have a lot of different faces. So it gives it that whole of kind of lies and deceit kind of feel to it. All these different faces. Yeah, so I like this image. To recap, my favorite is from the Weird Cat Tarot, and my least favorite is from the Darkness of Light Tarot. Next, the Eight of Swords. My keywords for the Eight of Swords was negative thoughts, negative thoughts, self-judgment or self-imprisonment, the inability to think clearly or logically, anxiety, being stuck, oppression, or being trapped and helpless. So what I like to see is like a form of entrapment, but like with a way out. So again, no death. Like, I don't want to see finality. I want to see that there is hope. And in terms of imagery, I don't feel like I necessarily need any of this traditional imagery. Again, not that I dislike it. I just feel like there have been a lot of great interpretations of this card, so I don't feel like I need any of this traditional imagery to be there to get the feeling that I need. What I dislike is this kind of hopelessness and the over-sexualization of usually women depicted being, tied up, like women in bondage, and like the sexualization of that. I think the mystical manga also did that, but I didn't pull that card out, so I dislike that. Here's a really nice image, my favorite. Eight of Swords. She's bound, and it really ties it into it being something of the mind, because in the mirror, she's all tied up. It's like she thinks she's tied up, but in reality, she's free. So I like that this brings it back to the whole air mind aspect of it. I also enjoy this image from the Circle of Life Tarot, where they're using their resources to try and get out. There's light on the lantern, so that would be kind of, I guess, the hope, because it doesn't look like there's really a way out, and there's a bunch of broken swords here, but there's that hope, and there's still all these that they can use to try and escape. And I like this one because it does kind of give me the feeling of, we can do something, we just have to do it. And I really, really, really like this image from the Mary L. This Eight of Swords from the Mary L. I'm still working with this deck. I probably always will be. But, depending on what side you're on, it's like, what side do you want to be on? This gate doesn't seem to be locked at all. So I guess if you really wanted to move forward, you could. But perhaps you're scared or afraid of what is waiting on the other side, so you're still on this side. And visually, it's just stunning. I like it. So, Eight of Swords, my least favorite. This is from the Eight Coins Tattoo Tarot, and I think Mystical Manga could also go up there. I just didn't grab the card. And my favorite from the Light Seers Tarot. Alright, almost there. Nine of Swords! Fun times in the Nine of Swords. My keywords here are anxiety, again, but kind of even more anxiety than in the Eight of Swords. Fear, depression, sleeplessness, nightmares, an overstimulated mind, like hopelessness, as opposed to like the Eight of Swords where there is some hope. This is a very dark image. I like to see darkness, and I like to see an imbalance in the composition of the image. So for example, here the top of the image is super, super dark, and then the bottom's kind of light, and there's even flowers, and this is kind of pinkish, reddish, I don't know. But like it's light on the bottom, but like super dark on the top. So you really get that feeling of like the burden being like, on your mind. And it being of the mind, and it's like this big, big burden. But like when you turn it around, there's light here, but like you can't, like you're not getting there because you're stuck up here. So that's a really bad way of trying to explain what I like to see in an image. But there you go. So for the least favorite, I chose from the Cosmos Tarot and Oracle. It's not that it doesn't portray that nightmarish feeling or the anxiety. It does. And I don't dislike it. In fact, I like it. But I guess it just doesn't hit those things that I was saying that I like to see. So, my least favorite. My favorite image of the Nine of Swords comes from the Saki Saki Tarot. And this one, I don't even know how to articulate in words, but I really love this deck. I really love this image. every card has this kind of sketchy white and black kind of portal or portals in the card. So you have that darkness above, the light below. The person's gotten out of bed. But then you also have like this little portal of the sketchy bedroom kind of scene. Um, I don't know how to put this in words, but this kind of the way this artwork is drawn and sketched and like the blobs is kind of like that mindset. Like it's the visualization of the anxiety in the mind is how I see it and how it makes me feel. So I really like that. This Nine of Swords I liked because it's just a slightly different depiction. It's not like what I just said I traditionally like in the imagery. But, you know, you stay up or you can't sleep because you're studying or there's an overstimulated mind. You're overstimulating your mind. Oh, I can't talk. But yeah, I like that it's a different depiction of maybe why you're feeling anxious. Another card I like is from the Raven's Prophecy tarot. This Nine of Swords. You really do get that sense of imbalance because here you have the flesh hand and here you have the skeleton hand. So I really like that. And I think just intuitively, it gets the meaning across really well, and visually, it does what I want it to do. So just to recap, my least favorite that I still really like, and then my most favorite. My most favorite? Just my favorite. uh, Finally, the last numbered suit, the Ten of Swords. So when I looked at this Ten of Swords, let me flip to that page. My keywords that came to me were a painful ending, a loss, hitting rock bottom, you know, unforgiving or refusing to forgive, perhaps just being overdramatic. So I like to see pain and hope. I don't like to see death or gore. Pretty simple, right? So what I have chosen as my favorite is, oof. And again, this was another one. I have a lot that I like. I also have a lot that I don't like. But here we go. We'll do this one. This is the Ten of Swords from the Mystical Manga Tarot. I love the colors. You know, she's stabbed in the back. I'm sorry about the glare, but there's blood flowing down her back. But she's not dead. She's still standing. The water to me, because I studied literature, is very cathartic. It gives you that hope, that of like that change and new beginning. You have the sun, and again the colors are beautiful. And although it's a painful card, this image is just beautiful, and it lets you see the beauty in the pain, I suppose. So I really like that image. Another image I enjoy is from the Everyday Witch Tarot, because there's that sense of like still fighting. You know, she's down, but she's reaching for her broom. You got the light, so you know she's gonna get up and she's gonna recover. Maybe even continue fighting. Who knows? But I like this image. Very hopeful. And I also enjoyed this Ten of Swords from the little Shadowland Tarot. It's like a little pin doll or voodoo doll that's just been pricked a bunch of times and can't move right now, you know, in the dark corner. But there's a light over here. And when those pins are removed, you know, everything will be okay. And I like that idea of removing the pins. Kind of reminds me of acupuncture as well. Like where you need some pain sometimes, you need to relieve that pain to be healthy and to move forward in your full potential. So I like that. I said I don't like death and I don't like gore. So my least favorite is, and so the images I'm about to show are going to have death and gore in them. If you're squeamish, you know, skip ahead a bit. From the Acorns Tattoo Tarot. Like, look, I can't even properly look at this. I have something about eyes and heads. And here the swords are just, I can't even look at it. It's too gory. It's too final. I don't know, and even if it was just that scene, you know, with the flowers on the bottom, I could make peace with it. And then you have the hands up here. The It's too much. It's too much. Another one I don't like is from the Animal Totem Tarot. Why you kill bird? Why? Why you kill bird? It's not even like it's a phoenix. It's a pigeon. It's not coming back to life. That's the end. So, I don't like that one either. Quick recap, my favorite from the Mystical Manga Tarot, and my least favorite, can't even look at it, from 8 Coins Tattoo Tarot. And the quartz. The quartz I've always struggled with. I've come to terms with them now, for the most part, but sometimes it's still a struggle. So for the Page of Swords, I have as my keywords, and a lot of these were based on what I know air to be, and like the beginnings of the suit, or the quartz for the air suit, and the intellect. So a lot of the meanings I jotted down for the court cards weren't even based on like specifically what I saw, just what I knew about the element and the association of swords with intellect. So my keywords are for the page: learning, curiosity, new ideas, open communication or self-expression. I see it as kind of like an artsy card. Positive thinking and like stimulating the mind on purpose. Um, so what I like to see is movement. I like to see a lightness or an airiness, and I like to see a lot of sky, which visually this card does. For my least favorite, and I really don't like any of the quartz in this deck from the Mystical Manga Tarot. So the Page of Swords, just because I can't read them. Maybe they're too like romanticized. They're like the pretty anime drawings, the romanticized manga. So I just don't really emotionally connect with any of the court cards in this deck. I mean, there's airiness. Yeah. I don't know. That's my least favorite. My favorite is actually from the Lightseer's Tarot. It kind of gets everything. Let me bring it closer. There's winds for air. You know, there's movement. She's moving. There's ideas. There's learning. Just everything I want the Page of Swords to be. Cleverly using the sword to cross over this impasse. It's beautiful. It's everything I want. So I also enjoy the Page of Swords, or Blades as it's called in the Everyday Enchantment. I like the pages in this deck, again, because this deck focuses on very kind of everyday situations and people, and for the court cards, for me, that's helpful, as I'm someone who struggles to connect to them often. So, you know, you have this boy, and he's outdoors, actually applying his learning and studying real things, and he's super excited and happy. But, you know, there's guidance. He's guided. It's not, you know, it's just, yeah. I really like this image for the Page of Swords. Dislike. Favorite. Really like. Next up, we have the Knight of Swords. My keywords for him were fast thinking and fast acting, fighting for what they believe in. I like to see an energy, defending something, or I guess you don't know if they're defending something, but the running forward with sword makes you think like they are defending something, and passion. So those are the keywords I have for the Knight of Swords. So what I like to see is an element of air. Again, I like to see a lot of sky. I like to see movement. I want to see my Knight of Swords riding a steed, because to me the Knight of Swords is like the knight, like the actual knight in shining armor riding a horse. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But I also like to see some red. Like, I like a bit of a wand energy, like a fiery energy in the Knight of Swords as well. For my least favorite knight, it's from the Raven's Prophecy Tarot, and it's not even a person. It's bloody scissors, and I don't like that. I don't like the court cards to focus on just the negative aspects, because a person is more than just shadows or just light. Um, so yeah. I also don't like, for the same reason, depiction from the Everyday Enchantment Tarot. He's just painted in a very negative way, like she looks very unhappy with what's happening up here. And again, there's scissors, so I wonder if there is some sort of connection, like why people are associating the Knight with scissors, the Knight of Swords with scissors. I wonder, because I personally don't understand. But if you can see the connection between scissors and Knights of Swords, please tell me. Please help me understand. So moving forward, my favorite Knight of Swords is from the Mary L. Tarot. This image kind of, touches upon all the things I said. It's very airy. There's lots of sky. Riding a steed, I mean, not a horse, but still, riding something. And it's just a beautiful image. You get that feeling of like, he feels like a Knight of Swords, and that, he's defending something. So I like that a lot. I also enjoy the Knight of Swords in a more traditional way from the Brit's Third Eye Tarot. So it's just a more traditional image than the Mary L. Person on horse, movement, clouds, airiness, and a touch of red. Yeah, so the Knight of Swords. Least favorite from the Raven's Prophecy Tarot, and favorite from the Mary L. Tarot. Next up is the Queen of Swords. My keywords for the Queen, and this is kind of the card that signifies me, although currently in my mindset I feel more like the reversed Queen of Swords, but working on it. My keywords for the Queen are independent, clear-minded, direct communication, clear communication, kind of like an analytical or logical thinking, courage, truth. Those are all the kind of things I associate with the Queen of Swords. So I like to see the idea of clarity, like a visualization of that. For example, here you have her head is above the clouds, so like there's clarity up here. I like there to be like a sharpness or a lack of emotion. I really enjoy when the Queen is facing like a certain direction. Like this is her profile view here, and she's looking that way. I like to see that in the Queen. And again, sky, element of air. I think that's a thing I like to see through all the court cards for the sword suit. So my least favorite is from the Light Visions Tarot. And again, I can forgive it in the panoramic view, but as a story, sorry, not as a story, as a court card, as a story I can forgive it, but as a court card I can't. Like this is, and maybe it's because it's touching too much upon myself, like I see myself in this image a little too much, maybe. So the shadow side of the Queen, blocking communication. So I chose it as my least favorite, because again, people aren't just their shadow selves. And for my favorite, I wanted to choose the Mary L. Queen of Swords, because I like it visually, but I need to look more into it. I don't fully understand this card, so I think it's unfair for me to choose it as my favorite, just because, I mean, it does have like the air, and you're up here in the sky, clarity, the third eye. So like it does hit upon the things that I said I like to see, but I just don't feel like I understand it enough to choose it as my favorite at the moment. So for my favorite, I chose the Queen of Swords or Blades from the Everyday Enchantment. Here you go. You have the scientist. She is facing in that direction, stern yet knowledgeable, I suppose. Looks like she could be a teacher. Got some certifications. So, good communication. I like the ribbon here. It gives her that, like, here, the breast cancer ribbon. It gives her that kind of like strong, like I was saying, courageous, strong truth. Like she's not hiding aspect of the Queen. And then out here, you have a bird for air, a sky. Not as big a sky as I'd like to see, but this whole image really helps me connect with the idea of the Queen of Swords. And for the King of Swords, the final card in the suit, my keywords are, again, mental clarity, again, truth, knowledge, goal-focused. I do kind of like to see maybe not ruthlessness, but like again, like a sterner figure. Honesty, integrity, authority, focused. So what I like to see is a confident figure, a wise figure. I like to see a direct gaze because that kind of adds to that confidence. Again, sky and air elements in the image are nice to see. And I'd like to see a figure sitting or standing in a way that is taking up space. So, like, just owning your space, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. For my least favorite, again, from the mystical manga, because honestly, they just all look the same. Hold on, can I find the other one now? Ooh, this is already too long. I don't know why I'm doing this, but yeah. See, there's the page, there's the king. Kind of like, and they're all like that. So, I can't connect with this king. And for my favorite, doesn't really do any of the things I said, or the image doesn't do any of the things I said I like to see. But it's from the Consider It Cat Tarot. I don't know why looking at the backs helps me remember the names, but it does. So I like this king. It just makes me feel, again, it's titled Father of Swords, so but it does give me a very fatherly figure type feeling. There's abundance. You have a lot of sky, but I like that this king's also connected to the ground, to the earth. He's grounded, like that ties into the idea of knowledge and fairness and just being grounded and not overly emotional. So I do like that there's, it's mostly sky, but there's a connection to the earth and being grounded. I like that the sword is in the ground rather than in the air, because that kind of shows a confidence that you're not gonna need this sharp kind of blade. You're not gonna need to use it because you have a lot of other things in your disposal intellectually that you can use first, I suppose. I don't know if that made sense. But anyway, least favorite king. Favorite king. Thank you for watching with me. You can see my mess of cards over there. It's been a journey through the swords, but I do hope that it wasn't too hard to watch. If you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. And I'm going to be working through the rest of the suits. So see you then, and until next time, stay safe and take care.